Welcome to Working Class Rich. Today we're going to be talking about how working class people can beat poverty, right? A lot of people, this is not necessarily a sexy conversation but listen, I want you to stay with me. How do working class people beat poverty? Because working class people think that beating poverty is hurry up and be rich. Hurry up and get to $1 million and you beat poverty. And what they don't understand is that the same thing that keeps you in poverty is the same thing that keeps people poor. So what's keeping you in poverty is actually keeping you poor. And you can have all the money in the world, but if certain things are still trapped in a poverty place, then you just a rich broke person. You're still there. I'm talking about how can working class people beat poverty? Because until you can really get a grasp on how you feel about this subject matter, you are in prison to think what they want you to think in terms of what it means to be wealthy, what it means to have a great lifestyle, all of that. So let's get into it. There's three obvious things that allows working class people to beat poverty. Because if we are working class, we got the highest taxes, we got anything that they can do in Washington, D.C., can totally affect our lifestyle, practically put us out of business. They cut off assistance in certain areas that affect a whole lot of people. They do different things that constantly causes your life to fluctuate up and down, because many people view things and they think that they're standing on stable ground, and they are not, because if one or two decisions can knock me and you down, back down to the poverty line, then we need to really rethink some things on what we're thinking, right? So it's three obvious things. Number one, I want to talk about the mindset of middle class people or working class people, because your mindset is the main thing that's keeping you where you are, because what you understand about where you are is the main thing that keeps fear going, that keeps anxiety going, that keeps depression going, that keeps that naive, overambitious, arrogant thing going, is your mindset. It's your mindset. When you have a person's mindset who would have a crappy apartment in the ghetto, but an expensive car outside, you can see that there's something going on in that person's mind that they don't understand. You bought an expensive car, but you're renting an apartment. Why not buy and then just have the crappy car outside, the little bucket outside? Why not do that? It's all about what you understand, right? And when it comes to mindset, it's not just a person thinking a whole lot of good things. See, you got to have a thing called revelation of life. You got to have a revelation. You got to see for yourself the destitute place you may be in. You got to see it for yourself. You got to get sick of where you are for your own self. So the mindset that I'm talking about is not a mindset that you listen to somebody that's motivating you to do what's right, because even though they're motivating you based upon the perspective that they see that they're trying to place on you. It's not necessarily meaning that you see what they see. They're just further ahead and they can see what's on the other side. Remember, you haven't made it to the other side yet. So you look at working class people when it comes to our mindset. Our mindset is that one thing, that major thing that's keeping you poor. If you want to beat poverty, it's not so much about just, reading the Wall Street Journal, doing all of these right things, and I'm just going to find myself out of poverty. Now, you may find yourself out of financial poverty. And for most people, that's a matrix that says, oh yeah, I made it. But you don't get it. As you go up financially, there's a whole nother game to play. Ask anybody who was in the NBA, NFL, movie star. Ask them, when they went up those millions, whole nother different ballpark to play. It's a whole nother mindset you got to have. So you got to deal with this thing called mindset if you want to beat poverty. If you want to have a real conversation about how to beat poverty, we got to check your mindset. The right mindset to beat poverty in the middle class, you got to build up your aptitude. You got to build it up. You got to be a person who is a continual learner. You got to go and learn, because the information that I'm taking in is the information I'm using to paint the picture that's necessary for me to see the revelation I need to see. So in order to shape that mind, you need right information. You're only getting the right information, not to be smart to everybody else like a Ty Lopez, you know what I'm saying? And he wasn't even smart, you know what I'm saying? But you're not trying to play games on people, when I'm talking about aptitude, and attitude. But anyway, you're not playing games. You're getting the information because you're trying to get the picture to become clear on what it means to actually have a decent life in working class. You need that mindset. You need the mindset. You need the revelation on your own that causes you to see what you see. Let me give you an example about me. Now, I've been an employee over 40 years of my life, worked all my life, never had my own business or anything like that. And I progressively moved up, in terms of financial amount. I currently moved up, but there was a lot of fears and different things I have, even now. Being a content creator, a whole lot of fears. You never know what people are going to think about you when you put out these type of videos. But I'm able to put out these type of videos because of my mindset. I have a revelation of me even when other people don't know me. So you don't have to know me for me to do this. I'm doing this because I know me. All right. When I started moving up in money, I realized there were certain fears that were still there, that was locking up in my mind. Because when it was time to move towards business ownership, owning a house, different things, I realized that fear showed up again because of what was blocking in my mind. I realized that poverty mindset was still in there. Fear will always show you where the poverty is. Fear will show you in your mind where poverty is, because for working class people, every single time it's time to go to the next level, the first thing that happens is fear. The next thing that happens is despair. One of the other things that happen is depression, or you get in a victim mentality. Nobody's there to help me. Nobody don't need to be there to help you. Well, I don't have the money. You don't need to have the money. You're thinking about money because that poverty mindset is popping up and is playing with your mind. Keep studying the information. Keep listening to the lectures. Keep listening to the people that's far along than you, so that you can get the same revelation in your eyes. You can see it for yourself, the things that they have. And you will be on the same frequency as them once you get the revelation. But mindset is another word that means personal revelation. Personal revelation. It doesn't mean that you're the smartest person in the room, wisest person in the room. That's just trickery statements, man. That's trickery. Stay a real person. No matter how far you go in life, be a authentic, real person, man. Don't achieve things just simply to impress somebody else as a matrix to say I'm doing better than you. Because at the end of the day, who cares, man? Who cares? Who cares? If you're not holding on to something real, what do you have? All right. So mindset. Next point, if you want to beat poverty, you need influencers. You need people in your life, not just content creators. Like I said, when I say influencers are close, direct people in your life who can influence you, encourage you as you're moving in a certain direction. You cannot beat poverty when you're living in the ghetto and everybody around you is okay with living in the ghetto. You can have the right mindset, you can have the revelation, you can have all that. When you have those influences, when they get around you, because you use them as a sounding board, you use them as, people that you can bounce ideas off of, they can really stagger the revelation that you have of actually getting out of that place. You're going to have the right influences. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that you don't need them. No, you need them. You just need the right ones. I grew up with a stepbrother who was a guy that was a mover and a shaker, man. He was a mover and a shaker. For my one job, that I'm proud of, he had 3 jobs, but I never understood why he had 3 jobs. I never understood why he moved the way he moved, because I still had that poverty mindset. I didn't know that was the flow that you have to do. But me being around him, he helped to influence later on in my life how actually breaking through to the next level, how you should move. You need momentum to break through the walls of life, man. You need momentum. It's not a slow walk, man. You got to get there. You got to move. You got to get that wind behind you if you're going through that wall. You need the right influencers. The right influencers are people that's not in competition with you. They're still going to love you the same whether you make it or not. They're going to love you the same. These are the right type of influences. They want to see you successful. They want to see you rise up. Your success is not a negative look on them. Even though you can rise to a place where you got more than them, the right influences are just happy for you. Just happy for you. But you need those people. Because I swear to you, when loneliness hits you, when that feeling that you don't feel that support, you don't feel, and you think in your mind, and like I said, this is how you know your mind is playing games on you. All of a sudden, you'll start looking at everybody as a hater. Oh man, they said a negative comment on my post, man. They just being a hater. They said a negative comment on your post because they don't see what you see. And you got to be okay that somebody don't see my same viewpoint, and allow that person on that end to be authentic, and allow yourself on your end to be authentic, excuse me. Everybody is not a troll. Everybody is not gaslighting you. They're just giving honest assessments on what they think. And you got to allow that. You need the right influences, man. You need those people that are excited for the things that you are excited for. They are standing at the finish line saying, come on, man, they allow you to have the spotlight without being jealous. Those are the influences that I'm talking about. If you want to beat poverty, you got to have the mindset, but you also got to have the right influences around. You got to have these 2 things. And watch this. On the third one, you got to have the right behaviors. After you get that revelation, I'm trying to go there. Then you get the right influences around you. And back to the influences, your influences may not always be people in your household. Sometimes the closest people that you think that should support you may not be the ones to support you. It just happens weird like that. That doesn't mean that you write them out of your life. It just means that they don't get it. And if they don't get it, there is still some people out there that do get it. Find those people, forgive the people that don't get it, but find those people and get to moving. Then you want to get into the behaviors, because after you get the mindset and influences, if your behavior stays the same in terms of poverty, how poor people do, like one instance, like I said, it's not a knock, this is just a fact. I've known for years, even when I was 15, 16 years old, and I knew a lot of people that was on SNAP benefits and food stamps. My mom was on it, and something in my heart back then, 1996, I knew at some point in time they're going to pull the rug on these people. I knew way back then that they were going to pull a rug. Now, I've never been on SNAP benefits because for some reason, a black man that's doing what's right, you taking care of kids and all this stuff, and you're actually doing what's right. They didn't even give me any help, and I was personally raising my kids, But anyway, that's needless to say, I'm not the victim, But anyway, I knew that those people building that generational plan on government assistance would one day find the rug pulled from up under. So if you don't change your behaviors, if you don't look at things as to say, responsibility and a lot of responsibility is not a negative thing. If I got to totally change how I eat forever, if I never eat potato chips, fast food, flavored food for the rest of my life to be the optimum health that I want to be, behavior says that's fine. Because if that type of behavior gets me out of that poverty place in terms of my health, then I'll just eat bland food for the rest of my life. But most people can't handle those extremes. They can't handle completely saying no to something. No, they say, well, just give me some time. I want to kind of get past this. And that what keeps them in that poverty place. Because you're waiting around to cut the thing off, poverty wins. No matter how you slice it, poverty wins. If you're spending hard-earned money on processed food that's not even food, Debbie cakes, all those type of, food that I used to eat, this is not even real healthy food. This stuff is deteriorating your health. It's raising your glucose, man. It's throwing your health off, man. It's all this stuff. If you're spending hard-earned money on things that's taking strength away from you, how can you rise out of poverty, man? How can you rise out of poverty? You got to change the behavior. You got to change the behavior. And if you don't change the behavior, there's nothing. Changing the behaviors mean you change bad behaviors quickly without emotion. Change your behaviors, change bad behaviors quickly without emotion. When the truth comes to you, the truth in terms of a budget comes to you, you don't get emotional. Oh man, I can't take my kids here. I can't. You don't get emotional. Without emotion, stop it. Stop right there. Stop. It's not going to ruin the kid's life that they can't go to an excursion every single weekend. You only can go once a month now, so that we can financially get our stuff together. You got to cut off bad behaviors quickly without emotion. But the problem with working class people, we are too emotional. We are so emotional about everything. And this is how they play us. This is how they keep you in prison. They will send something to middle class that they know that is going to trigger us emotionally. You look on the news, 85% of it is negative stuff. Bad stuff that's going on here. This person got kidnapped. This person got murdered. The stock prices are down. There's no housing, food shortage. They fill us with all of this negativity because they're stirring up that emotional thing that's in middle class because we're real people, man. They stir up emotions and they use that as a metric to stifle and stagnate middle class people from moving forward. Because if you feel like every plane is going to fall out the sky, you ain't going to be thinking about making a trip to Paris. You ain't going to be thinking about getting on the plane going anywhere, because you're going to be in fear for, oh my God, the planes are falling out the sky. It's like, wait a minute. First of all, you can die anywhere. Anything that can happen. You know what I'm saying? Why are you afraid of death? But anyway, no judgment. But, if you feel some kind of way, put it down in the comments. You got to quickly change your bad behaviors without emotion. And that is something that most middle class people are not willing to do. They're not willing to do. So when you're thinking about moving out of poverty, I'm wrapping it up, man. This video went pretty long. When you think about beating poverty is moving towards wealth. Beating poverty is moving towards wealth. But most people love the idea of getting rich because that sounds better than cleaning up your bad behavior. But when you're trying to be a real person, which working class people are, when you're trying to be a real person, you state it like it is. I'm tired of jobs having the ability to fire me. So I want to change so that I could put myself in a position of ownership where there's no job can fire me. So if I don't want to be fired and I need to put myself in a place of ownership, owning a business and different things, you got to change into that person. You got to change. And the way that you change is these 3 steps. You got to change your mindset. You got to get the right influences, and you definitely got to change that behavior. When you use this formula, this is how you beat poverty. And you can beat it in any situation if you follow what I'm saying. Hey, this is Starsky. This is Working Class Rich, man. Hey, join me in the next episode. Any comments, put it down, subscribe, all of that. Hey, see y'all next episode.